watching movie. I was like, it's going to be a rest day. And
It works.
yeah, me and Carter finally like worked out and played football probably close to 6. I was like, we'll end the day on a positive note.
There you go. Hey,
Well, I'm cutting out.
Rest is positive.
Yes. Well, I'm cutting out sugar. That doctor, the functional neurologist was like, you need to be on keto. And then look, like when I realized, I went to the grocery store last night and realized what cutting sugar out was. The most depressing grocery store trip I've ever been on.
You're like, I'll just take water and go home.
I was like, what am I supposed to eat? Like, that makes me happy in any form. So it's like been a journey. I've been tired. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Been eating a lot of keto ice cream. I'm not sad about it though. So
what do they? Yeah. So is that how do they do that without the sugar? Like
I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. I figured I wouldn't look too much into it at first.
Like I don't know. I don't want to know.
I don't know if it's a lie or not. You know, just gonna go with it. This is just what we have, and as we are adjusting into it and emotionally stabilizing. So I have no clue. But yeah, I've done this before and it was terrible. It's like a caffeine. I don't know if you drink coffee or caffeine or anything like that. But if you've ever detoxed off of anything, sugar's up there. Like sugar is a terrible thing to detox out of.
Yeah, that would probably kill me. I drink a lot of sugary drinks. Yeah, that would be rough.
It's awful. It's a constant like just checking yourself because your body is wanting it, and so I'd rather just sleep.
Yeah. That's a good alternative.
Just choose to sleep until like the worst part of it's over.
Yeah.
And so good thing I've detoxed off quite a few things, so by now it's just kind of like another
I'm a pro.
Another part of my life. If there's one thing that will be an expertise is ridding my body out of substances. So yeah.
You can write a book on how to detox successfully.
Yes.
Like I've done it from like 10 different substances by now, so we're good.
Over and over again. Yes. Well, it's so wild because these are probably the worst. Nicotine, caffeine, sugar, top 3 awful things to do because they're so readily available.
Yeah.
So you can say all you want to, like, oh, I'm going to stop. Like, just give it away. But at the end of the day, you know, it's legal. There's the only shame you're truly dealing with is your personal like promises to yourself. So it's kind of like that self promises that you've made. You know it's unhealthy. So you deal with all the shame and the guilt yourself, unless you have other people who are doing it. So they're probably the worst, I would say, out of anything. You know, they don't destroy your life
and sugar, like sugar is in everything.
Yeah, you were right.
If you get down to it, like it's in everything. Mm-hmm. So that's hard.
I took your word. I was looking at in the grocery store. I was just I was like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to eat? I really am supposed to just eat like protein, cheese. Carter comes home today and he's like, well, what are we eating now? And I'm like, look at the fridge. I was like, I'm not depriving you. You can still have like, you know, your food, but
Right.
we're not eating like how we used to. That's for sure. So
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a little bit there. Like, are you doing just sugar or is it any carbs?
it's carbs and sugar.
Okay.
So like the glucose is out. Like it's the glucose element. So anything that is producing glucose, you want out. So it's not just like sugar, it's the producing of it.
Okay. Yeah.
So weird. That is the goal. That is the goal.
Yeah.
You know, like
Well.
And it's not as strict, you know, like right now it's just trying to get to ketosis to get the ketones kind of for the brain health and all that and see what it does. Like, you know, I'm still going to have cake and enjoy life, but just to initially kind of detox, get all that so we can be intentional about what we eat.
Yeah.
But it's miserable.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, better to be honest about it and just say, listen, this sucks. Like, than to try and, like, sugarcoat it. Don't sugarcoat it for sure.
No, I'm not a nice person. Like, that's why Carter at this point kind of knows, like, we just leave Mom. Just let her sleep.
Like, if she's sleeping, she can just stay asleep.
Yeah, like, at this point, I know not to like react on my emotions, but it really is, it changes everything. I do not respond well. Maybe it's not just a me thing, but for me in the initial of detoxing from anything, it is just like I'm like, should I be a yoga teacher? Like, do I have the requirements to be this? Because I feel like demons live inside me right now.
I mean, if you have the mental strength to detox from something as widespread as like carbs, I mean, I think that qualifies you to be like a yoga teacher right there.
No, my friends ate a pizza in front of me first thing today at lunch when we went and go-karts. I was like, y'all are so nice. But it's okay. It's all for brain health, you know? That's it.
Yeah.
Like, if it wasn't for, I think, that's what I tell people. I'm like, you know, don't do anything so extreme if it's not really that intention. Like, why I'm doing this is for literally because of brain health, my health, to see if this is a serious, you know, element can help epilepsy, right?
Right.
Because I've never taken this route. I literally live.
So, kind of along those lines, like, what besides trying this, what are some other kinds of like treatments or whatever that you've tried for like epilepsy or to get your seizures under control?
You know, I've not really ever tried anything. I suppressed it for so long by just not even acknowledging its existence.
Okay.
So when I got sober is where it became kind of, oh, you have to deal with your demons now. And this just so happened to be one of my demons that I just didn't want to acknowledge. So yeah, that the only thing ever, like I was just telling that doctor, I was like, what happened was I started having juvenile myoclonic jerks. They gave me an EEG and told me I had epilepsy and I was on pills. That's it. Like, that's all that's ever kind of been explored, ever. So now being sober and taking my health serious, you know, now it's kind of taking my hand into my own hands to see what we can do about it.
Right.
And not just even for me, but just because I'm in a holistic space. That's not just like we go to the primary care doctor and we do these things, but what are other avenues that can help people? So I'll be a test dummy for sure. I've tried worse things.
You know, right? Yeah. I mean, choosing to not put something into your body is, I think, a better choice than just choosing to put everything into your body.
Right.
So
Exactly.
at that point, yeah, then you can
Exactly.
slowly decide what is available or what is okay to. So for me, I've been on medication. I'm still on medication.
Yeah.
I have my VNS right here. That doesn't. It's
Hmm.
just a decoration now. But that was what was tried. I mean, 2004. It was installed, implanted. I don't know what the word is, but it was. They put it in there. I don't know.
Hmm.
And hooked the wires up in my neck up here to that connect to my vagus nerve right here.
Okay.
Um, and they would send electrical impulses to my brain that would go off like every minute. It would go off for 30 seconds, sending electrical impulses to my brain. And it was at a very high setting because of at the time where I was at with my seizures, like how many I was having and stuff, and the fact that um, they'd already done all the tests to see if surgery was an option, and it wasn't. So they couldn't do brain surgery. So this was kind of like a, well, let's try this and see if it'll work. Um, and so they put that in, ran it, and it ran until the battery died. By the time the battery died, the medication that I was on was controlling my seizures. So they can take this battery pack out and replace just that. Um, but because I was not having seizures at the time, we opted not to do that, and said, "Listen, let's not change anything. Like,
Right.
let's just leave it all
Leave
alone."
it. Yeah.
Like, I
It's
was
all
having
good.
cluster seizures. I had as many as 13 in a day,
That's
like
wild.
grand mal seizures.
And
And
how long
so
ago was that?
that was, um, they started in, I think, about 2000. So I think something probably got messed up with my brain with Y2K,
Uh-huh.
and that's what started it.
Yeah, that makes
um,
sense. Pretty-
nothing else got messed up, but my brain got messed up with something. My programming got
Yeah.
messed up with Y2K. Um,
Okay.
so, and if people in here are too young, they're like, "What the heck is Y2K?" Just Google it. Just
The
Google
internet
it.
was gonna shut everything down, I
Exactly.
think.
The
Is
world.
that what it was? The internet
Yeah,
was
the
gonna
world
shut
was
everything
supposed to
down.
shut down. It
Hmm.
didn't, and then like in 2019, the world actually did shut down.
Yeah.
But it had nothing to do with computers.
That's so
Or
wild. Yeah.
2020. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, so yeah, I think it was 2000 is when my seizures started,
Hmm.
and got really bad for a while, and then about, let's see, 2000. Uh, 7 or 2008 is when they were like under control, sort of, to the point where I wasn't having quite so many, but they were still occasional.
Hmm.
Um, and then after like 2009, I've had 3 since then. So now they're at a point where I would say they're very well controlled.
That's
And I
awesome.
just, yeah. Um, and I had asked them afterwards, like, "Hey, is this something that like they'll take out?" And they're like, "No, it's not hurting anything. So unless it's causing an issue, we'll just leave it there." And I was like, "All right, cool, whatever." It doesn't bother me. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't affect anyone, or like it doesn't affect me at all. So it's just like a decoration at this point. It's kind of like a talking point. So it's kind of, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
I asked my doctor about all the things, and every time I ask her, she's like, "You don't have it bad enough to do that." I'm like, "Can I have
Okay.
brain surgery? Can I have, can I have, what, I'll come to her with something." She's like, "No, you don't have it
Huh.
severe enough. Like, it's just your pill, your
Huh.
medicine controls it. You're fine. You have a breakthrough seizure, whatever." And I'm just
Huh.
like, and so I think it became like last year I started being like, okay. And there's a difference between a neurologist and an epitomologist, right? So
Okay.
the neurologist, though, you know, they know, I'm not going to say they don't know plenty, but at some point in time, I feel like just accepting seizures like is just a part of your life is not like a great answer for me.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you know, like that's just not doing the bare minimum. Like even when I would ask like for a recent EEG, like I haven't had one since I was 15, 14.
Okay.
So, I mean, my brain has got to have changed over the years. I don't know.
Yeah.
And she's just like, no, you don't need one. And so I have no clue. This woman is. But I love the functional doctor. So that was great. I did test all day long. And if anybody is interested in seeing a functional brain doctor, that was highly an experience regardless. Because they do like your diet, all the things to have you just healthy and doing optimal. So, yeah, that's even if you don't have epilepsy, I would be like, that's a great, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably things in everybody's diet that could be changed to help their brain work better because there's so much that we do on a daily basis that affects our brains, whether or not we have epilepsy.
Yeah, she was like, the brain fog will probably go away if you get in on your keto diet. She said, if you eliminate the sugar, then the brain fog and your memory will become 1,000 times better.
Interesting.
Yeah, even with the medicine. She said, you probably won't have any of these symptoms that you have if you get on the keto diet.
Okay.
So we'll see. We'll see if I can do it.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? Because my brain is not getting any younger and we need to remember things.
Right. So you said you're just taking medication right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how often do you have, like you say still have breakthroughs, like how often do you have breakthroughs?
So I didn't have any, went years without them and they popped up, I think in March. I've had two, maybe I've had two at night in the past since March.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe 3 since March. And that is typically very abnormal. I've never had one. Usually the most frequent I've ever had them is every 6 months.
Really? Wow.
Mm-hmm. Like it'll be every 6 months. And it's like I almost say it's like the stress in my body builds up and it's like an animal shaking it all out. And that's how I feel. And then it resets.
Yeah. Just your brain resets and then you're like, all right, we're good.
It
now
just
we can keep
resets and I feel fine. Some people, and it's way different. I love that's the only thing I like about epilepsy is that it is all different. You know, we can't just prescribe like what works for me, what works for you. But that's honestly what it feels like. It feels like I have allowed so much stress, so many things to build up, and it just shakes out like animals do. Like that's how animals do, and it releases it, and then it does the same thing. Because, you know, it's just like your VNS, like it's hooked up to your vagus nerve. Like, so that's why yoga and meditation, all those things are so helpful, right? For regulating the nervous system. So if I'm not practicing yoga, like I haven't been these past 4 months, quite like I used to, and on just a routine due to I have just completely have a different routine from not being at the 9 to 5, moving, just many different reasons. And I think that has a piece of it as well. It's just my nervous system just shot completely, but we're getting back there. So we'll see it. But yeah, so I think That's what I say is I've just done something. I've stressed myself out to a point. My body is like, no more.
Hmm.
And it freaks out. I don't know.
It's I'm gonna say because I was gonna ask if there's something that you can like look back at before, because like you said you had a few right in like
Mhm.
close together. If there's something that you could look back at that was like a triggering thing for them, or like very stressful events leading up to that, or something like that. But or maybe it's just the cumulative stress or something like that.
It's usually just around a time hormonal and then overdoing it. Like I'm still up. Like I'm still up and I'm still probably working at a late time.
Okay.
Like say it's probably 9:30, 10:30, and I'm either deciding to clean the house, sequence a class, work with the TV in the background, have some light stimuli, like that's not helping.
Right.
And like the last one I had, I literally felt it. Like I felt it come on, which was super odd, but I just could not make it to my bed
Hmm.
in time. Like it just, I didn't. I woke up in the recliner and Carter was just like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yes, I'm fine," and came to and just slept it off. So
Yeah.
at this point, but yeah, it's usually at night I have just overdone it, stress some point. And that is where balance is extremely important in my life and
Right.
keeping it. And that's ultimately why I made the switch to leaving the 9 to 5 and figuring out how to be like do yoga online. And this initial stage is just, oh my gosh, a learning thing. But because I couldn't handle all of it, it was driving me crazy to try to balance being a mom, the side gig, and be in the office.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's a lot.
I was like, I don't know how people need to do this, but I have to sleep. Like, I have to sleep. Like, I literally do. It's prescribed for my lifestyle.
Yeah, no, and I've gone through times where I'm like, all right, something's got to be cut, and I'm like,
Right.
well, I'm gonna cut out whatever the least important thing is, and I'm like, my kids don't ever get cut, like
Right.
that's just not a thing for me. So I'm like, well, social media just goes away from me, and that's the first thing. And I'm like, all right, that's an easy cut for me because it's just the easiest thing to like, all right, this is I can take out this chunk of time, and I'm a lot more free to focus on. Okay, I gotta stabilize myself because I'm just doing way too much. I'm spread way too thin. So
Yeah, and I think we can all resonate with that, even no matter what you have. I think just the amount that we all try to do is just
yeah,
causing a lot of stress.
yeah,
Except for
oh yeah,
there can be so many side effects. You know, it's not just like being stressed for some of us. I think, I mean, stress is number one, let's see, killer, isn't it? It's like smoking cigarettes, I think they say stress. So if you ask me, just quit your job and do what you love, and maybe it'll work out.
right.
That's my advice. So, but yeah. So we were going to talk about ADHD and all of that with.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
find that your epilepsy or any of that has created ADHD with it? Like,
Hey, thanks Tanya for the finger heart, and thanks. I saw you come in. Morgan was talking. I didn't want to interrupt, but yeah, thank you
oh,
for
yeah.
coming in. Thanks for the likes, and thanks for the gifts. I don't notice that in myself at all. Other people might notice it in me. I don't know, but I don't notice it necessarily in myself. So,
No, that's awesome. No,
um,
I don't think you do. I just didn't know. Like the medicines gave me, I could have been ADHD my whole life. and just started figuring it out. But I thought
Okay.
that was a great topic. But we're going to speak with her on
And
another
yeah,
day,
and
right?
so if anybody was in here and they were expecting to see Cause in here, she is not in here. She was not feeling well. She texted me earlier today and she's like, I'm just not up to it tonight. But she will be in 2 weeks. So she will be here. Like I said, 2 weeks she'll be with us. But she couldn't make it tonight. She's like, if you need me to be there, I can make it work. And I was like, no. I was like, take your time and do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. I'm like, I'm not gonna try and push someone that's not ready. And she just said she was just feeling under the weather, just wasn't feeling great. And so I was like, just take your time. And so that's why I just put up here change of plans because yeah, we were gonna be talking with her tonight, and it's just she was not feeling well today. So yeah, we'll make it work tonight, and we'll be fine. Hey Tash. From you just kind of briefly touched on it too, like asking me questions, but like from your medication that you're on, have you noticed other side effects from that as well?
Yeah, it's probably, well, we'll see. We'll see if it has to do with the food this whole entire time or it's the medication, whether I've been blaming it on the wrong thing. So for a while, I think it has messed with my memory, my learning, slowing down. I suppose it has to, right? Like that's the whole point. It's slowing down the signaling of the brain. I'm
Okay.
guessing that's what it's doing. I would think it is. So the slowing of everything is what I feel like it does. Kind of used to feel foggy, but I'm not entirely sure. That could be diet, that could be a lot of things, just wear and tear, doing way too many other drugs when I was younger. So I'm not entirely sure. Being now 36. Some
Dang, you're younger than
days
I am, so
I have sped up this aging process as far as, well, I wouldn't say that. I've just rearranged some neural pathways,
yeah.
quite a few different ways. So I don't necessarily know if I can blame the medicines because at the
Yeah.
same times I was taking the medicines, I was burning out dopamine receptors.
Okay.
So I have a neat experience
Yeah.
where
Thanks, Ben.
I'm sure they do something, but
Yeah.
they are doing something. Obviously, I'm not having my juvenile myclonic jerks. That's what I struggle with the
Right.
most.
Okay.
But yeah, the thinking, I have no clue whether that's my own doing or that is the epilepsy drugs.
Okay. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for jumping in and saying
What
hi
about
and
you?
thanks for dropping that gift.
How do you feel on them? Do you think that you're the same on them?
So I've been on them for so long. Okay.
Right.
And Tash, I don't know. Tash, is my live still lagging? Because my service is great on here, so I'm not sure. It may be TikTok though, so I'm not sure exactly. I've been on the same ones for so long. Okay. All right. Good. I'm glad it's working well. I've been on the same ones for so long that it's very hard for me to tell whether it's anything with my medication or if it's just how I am. I process things extremely slowly. Thanks for the heart, me, Ben. And so like live conversations for me are sometimes difficult if I'm not prepared ahead of time. So like when I sent you that list of questions, I'm like, this is what I'm going to go over because it makes it easier for me to, I can do it okay if I if I have a plan, and I can take some like sidetracking and stuff like that. But if I'm in a conversation with a whole bunch of people, I'm done. Like I'll just sit there and listen, because it doesn't work. Like, I can't focus on all the things that everybody's saying at once. And that, I think, is somewhat the medication and somewhat the damage from the seizures and somewhat just how I am.
Right.
It's just, I process things very slowly. I was actually talking about this recently with someone, and I can't stand reading out loud in public. Because when I'm reading something out loud, I'm trying to understand what I'm reading and process it while I'm trying to like form the words. And I know that sounds like a second grade problem, but I'm trying, like, I'm a very visual person. And so when I'm reading something, I'm like, my brain is telling a story, like a whole, it's like I'm watching a movie in my head. At the same time as I'm trying to like grasp the concepts that are being like conveyed by what I'm reading, and I'm trying to like form out the words that I'm reading. And so it's like a whole lot of things all mixed together. And it's very frustrating for me to try and read in public. So, and I don't know if those things are side effects from the medication, or if it's just how I am.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, because I'm sure a lot of people can resonate the fear, first of all, of reading in front of people. I'm the same way, processing things. I also think I have some trauma of just reading in front of people. I don't typically read a lot in front of people. I'd rather just come fully prepared and just speak it or bullshit it. Like, I scripted the whole thing. If you are confident enough, people will believe anything you have to say.
That's true. It's sad, but it's true. I mean, look at all the politicians.
There you go. There you go. If you just speak, I think I did a video of that. Like, if you just speak confidently and you act like you know what the hell you're talking about, and it could be absolutely made up and fucking people will believe you. Like, that is,
it's true.
That is absolutely like textbook basic public speaking 101. And you can just see it in social media, like social media posts. Like, if you are to go make a post, people love when others are so confident, because it is such a terrifying thing to do, to just even get on here and talk in front of people. And so whether I think even what you say is accurate or not, if you just come out with a confidence in yourself, people love it. And then when you come maybe shy, saying the same like thing, like there's proof of it, it doesn't take as well, because you know, that's not what people respond to. I took a lot of public speaking classes. It's actually my favorite class, most terrifying class.
Yeah.
Terrifying. And this was in college, because also I would think of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a seizure, like catastrophize the whole thing. Like, what if I have a seizure right now? I never did, thankfully. But, you know, some people worry about the words, and that is what I always worry about. It's like, first thought. It's like, what if I fall out in front of everybody? So.
You won't be there. You won't be conscious, so it won't matter.
That is true. That is true. That is a good point. So I guess it's just having a different perspective of it. Yeah. It's like, will people judge me, or will I be on the floor? So, anyways. But, okay, well, what I briefly looked at the questions, but as you can tell, you're a little bit more strategic than I am. A flow with the whatever you want to ask, we will.
Like I said, that's why I do that, because that makes it easier. So, just otherwise I'll be like, man, I was gonna ask this question, I just can't remember what it was, because that's why I'm like, all right, I just put that in there and then I got it. So. And I don't even care. I mean, I can read the question. I don't care. It doesn't matter. So if somebody doesn't like that, then they can just go bloop and they can keep going. So
No, yeah, because I
yeah.
will take things off into another stratosphere.
And that's fine.
I-
Like we can, like I said, we start with the questions and then we go
yeah,
from there, and it makes it work
right.
well. So I don't, it's fine. Like what are some of the other ways, like besides the obvious, that like this has affected you? Like, I mean, obviously there's some things that are fairly obvious, but what are some other ways like that maybe people wouldn't even think about that this like having epilepsy has affected you?
I would definitely say my sense of independence. So from it looks like I'm very independent. I can do so much on my own, but what my goals in life, it keeps me very dialed back. Like, I think if I didn't have epilepsy, there's no way I would be in America. I would be in a whole nother country. I don't even know if I would be, well, I would say I didn't never even plan to be a mother. Like, there were so many things that I didn't plan for, but got whatever universe answered and got me over that fear. But I think as far as an independence, it is really terrifying. You know, like I don't get to just think of like I'm gonna go on this plane or I can go travel with my kid, and right now at this age, you know, I have to think about all these things. Like I can go travel by myself. I'm fine if whatever happens to me by myself. It's like having Carter with me is a whole nother element in a foreign place for him.
Okay.
And living somewhere where he can't call family. You know, like it's that level of independence as a mother that is so still feels like I don't have it. And I
Yeah.
struggle with that. You know, I might look like I do all the things because I do, but if I didn't have this, I don't think I would not, like there wouldn't be a level of dependence still on my environment and
Right.
other people.
Yeah.
So but it won't be too much longer. And I don't know if that even made sense.
No,
But
it does. Yeah.
yeah, like, because he's still at an age where, you know, it's not necessarily that he feels safe with mom all the time. And I understand that. You know, like, he needs to feel like there's also somebody there because like, his mom falls out from seizures.
Yeah.
So if we're out, you know, traveling somewhere, he needs to be able to call somebody. He needs to
Yeah.
know, he needs that level sense of safety. I'm not his full sense of safety. And that
Right.
affects me a lot. Like that impacts me a lot. It's not being your child's sense of safety, but almost, you know, a cause of the sense of fear
Right.
in this world.
Yeah.
So,
And I think some of that, like, because I've had to work past, and I say past, I'm not past it because it's just a part of life, but I've had to get myself to a point where I'm like, well, if it happens, it happens.
right.
I'm going to try to not do stupid things to make it worse. I mean, I've still done stupid things, obviously, because I've ended up in the hospital and stuff, but, you know,
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn. I've learned slowly though, so
Same
but
here.
I'm gonna try to not do things that'll put my girls in danger if something should happen. So if I mean, and I've done things like where when I'm driving, because I have to drive. It's just I don't have an option. I mean, I can't Uber across the country. It's not gonna
Right.
work.
Right.
Like,
Same here.
we went
Same
to
here.
we went to Tennessee this year. I can't take an Uber there, so
Right.
we drove 20 hours there, and it's like we made it fine, and we made it back fine. But I've taught them how to do things like with the car. Like if I start having a seizure, this is what you do, and you can get the car to where it doesn't matter if I'm hitting the gas. Like if you hit the shifter, it'll be in neutral. I can be hitting the gas all I want while my leg is stiff. I'm hitting like in having a seizure. It's not going to matter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, and they can reach the steering wheel from the passenger seat. So like you reach over, you grab that steering wheel, and you just hang on to it and let it like guide it over to the side of the road. It'll coast to a stop. And I'm like, so I've tried to teach them different things that they can do, and then they always have access on my phone too, to be able to call. They can call their mom, and then they can call. There's someone else that lives even way closer than their mom, who's a good friend of mine, but they can call 911 too, without ever unlocking my phone. And my two older daughters have like watches that they can make like phone calls on too, so they could do that too. They can make phone calls and stuff, so they'd be able to have access to emergency help if they needed it. And hopefully that never happens, but
Right.
if it does, it does. And I've just tried to kind of accept the fact that, well, maybe that will happen, but hopefully it doesn't. I don't know. So.
And that's the same way, I refuse to just settle for the most part.
Right.
Like I think it's more outside influence, which I've set a lot of boundaries this year with it. But I do still keep in mind, like, because it's just me and him traveling, I do try to have somebody else with us traveling.
Okay.
Yeah. Or around. Now, he wants to be in the military anyway, so I don't know how much he's even fazed by any of this. Because he's just been taking care of things for so long. But yeah, because most of the time he wants to live in Germany. That's where he wants to live. I don't know. Him and his friends are doing something right now. But yeah, he could move in a second, I think. But we're gonna wait until high school, I think. I'm gonna try to see if he wants to go to yoga retreats with me. If not, he can stay with his father. That's my goal. But yeah, he's great. But I think that is one thing. And then that was before even having him. Like, I was very much like, my family could get to me in hours at least. Right. I never left too far if something would happen, and I did that whether I knew it or not. Okay. So, but that's a underlying fear, I think. About to go to Puerto Rico in February, and I'm absolutely terrified of getting on this plane. For some reason, I have come down with the fear of heights, which I have never had until recently. And getting in the air, whether it's roller coasters, where I talked to you about the ski lift.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're going on an airplane. Oh my gosh, I'm so terrified. I am literally terrified. But we're going to go deal with our whatever makes us fear. I don't know if it's the lack of control, I think, what it is.
Yeah.
So.
I won't make any comment about the lack of control.
Ooh, I think it's the lack of control. I have no control over anything.
My ex was a control freak, so.
I know I have a lot of flaws. At least I'm aware of them, okay? At least I know it. I can see it. I can see all my issues. When you can't deal with yourself.
Acceptance is the first step on the road to recovery. There you go. Yeah. You can accept them at least.
Oh, I can see it. I can see it. I was like, I think last night when I was first like detoxing from things, because I've been diagnosed with
If
borderline
you guys missed the first part, she was detoxing from carbs. If you missed the first part,
Oh yeah,
that's what she's detoxing from.
sugar.
The other
Not
things
anything
came a couple.
more.
The other things came a couple years ago.
I was thinking about how like a psychiatrist has diagnosed me with borderline personality disorder, and I try my very hardest to be aware of this. And so things with borderline personality disorder, what a thing they do is splitting. Like you split your personality. Like we're not typically supposed to have favorite people or like latch on to people because we put our happiness and our worth into that person, and then as soon as that person does not live up to the standards of being our favorite person, we split. And then it's almost like a bipolar, like bipolar, narcissistic, like really cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs type stuff. So I was just looking thinking about all the times that I had done that to people, like just split my personality, because that's how I was feeling. It was letting like that complete different side because I didn't have this like food that was making me happy. And so I was feeling exact opposite and so crazy. And I was like, I just don't understand how anybody listens to me as a teacher, as a mother, like, who allows me to just even talk, period. So yes, awareness is key, acceptance is key, and giving yourself grace through this whole journey because I still have a lot of work.
Oh man. What is something that, or something, or something, or some things, different things that you do, and I already know, but at least one of them, that you do to help manage your life with this, or help to make your life easier with this?
On meds? Is that what you said?
No, to manage your life with this, like to manage your life while living with epilepsy.
I would just say, I don't know if it's managing really epilepsy, but more of the idea with it, or just what comes with it, is really what you just touched on, is acceptance and awareness. Those two things of acceptance, awareness, grace is the third one. There is some things that are just not in your control. Like,
Right.
even if it's dormant, like the end thing of life is death. That's it. Epilepsy, what is so terrifying about it is because it is literally the epitome of death. Like, it's like, oh, here is your reminder that this life is going to come to an end, and you live with it. And it's got some symptoms. And I think I'm just making peace with all of these thoughts that you have and doing the best with what you've got. That's really what helps me. I think my life is still pretty chaotic. And
I mean, aren't we all though?
yeah, like, I mean, I think it's the idea of epilepsy. Like, it's the label of epilepsy. If I get too caught up in it, it will almost manifest into more issues, weirdly.
Right.
It really will. It will manifest into more issues. And I don't know if that's also been a thing about the past 4 months, because I was diving into that possibility. And that's why I kind of stepped out of it, because I was like, I don't know if I am putting too much light for this in my life. Because there is a thing, is that we can re-traumatize our nervous system if we are not careful, whether that be, different traumas. And epilepsy just happens to be a trauma for me. Like, it's a trauma. I think there's ways to help people without having to relive your trauma.
Right.
That was causing me to absolute relive things I did not want to relive anymore, like every day. And so I think that not getting caught up in like, you're just epileptic. Epilepsy is your life. It sucks. You're going to suffer all day, every day. Just eating, poison and sucking. Like, because that is exactly how I felt initially when I was diagnosed.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the initial diagnosis, it is very overwhelming. But when you get to a point where you're like, listen, this is a diagnosis. It's not a definition. Like, this doesn't define me.
Right.
This diagnosis doesn't own me. I can own this diagnosis. Like, I get to decide how much of me I'm going to give up to this. I mean, to an extent. Obviously, I could be sitting here talking to you. I could have a seizure right now. I don't get to decide that, but I get to decide how much of my mental capacity is worn out thinking about that and worrying about that. I can sit here and worry about the fact that I could have a seizure at any moment. I could sit here and worry about that all day. Or I can go on with my life and continue and live an amazing life anyways, in spite of the fact that I could at any moment have a seizure. And so I think it's like deciding that, like making that decision to go, listen, this is a part of me, but this is not all of me. And one of the things that and maybe I worded this question wrong, but one of the things that I do to help manage my life with this and to help manage everything that goes along with it is I've taken up paddleboarding recently.
Okay.
And that is a huge stress reliever for me. I get outside and really any time that I'm outside, but that's just one of the things. I love anything outside: paddleboarding, hiking, fishing, camping. So anything that I can do outside is something where I'm getting away from this. And it's just a huge stress relief for me because I'm connecting with all of the beauty that's out there. And it just basically lets me escape from all of the nonsense that's in here all the time. And I can just completely relax during that time. So that's one of the big things for me lately. So
no, paddleboarding is great. I get it. Yeah, so yoga is
so
one
like
of
I
those
said,
things.
maybe I worded that question wrong. So I need to work on that wording, I guess. So
No, your wording is fine. Yes, yoga is one of those things. But I guess it's just a mental state for me because I think I hid with epilepsy for so long that everything I did was not necessarily dealing with it. So I would go to a yoga studio, first thought, oh my gosh, what if I have a seizure? I would have to shut that up. So, none of the things I did was necessarily for epilepsy. I was still trying my hardest to avoid it.
right.
Still plagued with fear of the what ifs. What if? It wasn't until, very recently where it was I really don't care. Of course I don't want to get hurt or hurt somebody. Nobody wants that, no matter if you have epilepsy or not.
Right.
But yeah, I think epilepsy has literally been the last piece of dealing with anything. I've lived with it in silence. And that's what I don't want people to do. is because
Right.
I've lived with it for 25 years, I would say. Let me see. I'll have to do that math later. I don't know. But
I know, I'm like, people ask me, I'm like, I don't know. It's forever. I don't know.
I've lived, let's see. Okay, so I was diagnosed at 15, 25. For a good 10 years, I like kept my friends in secret. Like if they saw a seizure, like they were sworn to secrecy. And then if I did have a seizure in front of people, I just blamed it on an overdose. Like I just said it was drugs.
Oh, okay.
Like that's how serious I was. I was like plagued with.
Which is ironic that you would do, like, most people would be like, no, it's not drugs. Like, you're like, it is
They automatically thought. They would be like, you know how epilepsy, like, she's just on drugs. Like, they told, like, any... And I went with that. I was like, this is easy. And then they would take my drugs away and I would be so upset and it'd just be a repetitive thing. Like, it was no big deal. And all the while, I know, man. Like, I had really, like, this was not drugs. Like, I wasn't even on drugs yet. I had literally just fucking had a damn seizure. Oh gosh, it was awful. And then about 5 years, no, I would say about 25 is when I started becoming more open about it, but I was very nonchalant. Like, it's no big deal. This is nothing. Like, you know, very brush it off about the matter. Because I was still very brushing it off about my life. Like, it was nothing. I wasn't dealing with it. So when I started opening up about just everything, you know, from whether I was smoking meth or epileptic to whatever it was. I wanted it to be a safe place of, you know, no matter what you have, you don't need to suffer in silence. Because I put masks on for a very long time and that did not help anybody now I'm 35 just figuring out my body because I neglected what was going on for so long. So.
Yeah. I just think it's ironic that you would just people like that.
Yeah. No, it was very, you gotta think I was up for days, like on all these substances. It was just nothing but a thing. And if my friends who knew about it, they were to go along with that. Like, you do not say anything.
That's funny.
Yeah. And, yeah. But that just even made the situation worse because I would see how people would respond to it, right? I would get up. I would see, like, the debacle that it is. Of, even though it was in the context of, like I'm overdosing, you know, like not epilepsy. Like, this is way different context. But it would just put in my mind, like, oh my gosh, I'm a freak. Something's wrong with me. I am never to, like, tell anybody.
Right.
Because I felt something wrong with me in this. Just, you know, as far as being epileptic. And that was my own views of how I viewed being epileptic, how I viewed myself. And that was a childhood thing. So.
And I think that's the hard part too, is that when people are diagnosed initially, they are, See, that's the problem with my brain, is that it's a one-track thing, and then I have a kid walk past who's dancing around in some crazy clothes, and I'm like, I don't even know what I was saying. So, now when people are diagnosed initially, they have the mindset of I can't tell anyone, and then they see themselves, and they people go on and watch my videos that are online, and they go, that's what I look like. Like, I'm a freak. And that's the hard part of like getting past that to the point of it's not me that's a freak. Like, it's my brain is doing this. It's not something that I control. It's just something that happens. And that's a really hard switch to make in your mind of, I'm not doing this. It's not me. I don't have any control over this. And so it's not me that's the freak. It's my brain is just freaking out right now. And it's basically a hard reset in your brain. And that's why you have a seizure, is your brain is doing a hard reset for whatever reason, whatever it is that triggers a seizure, whether it's stress, something you ate, not enough sleep, something triggers a seizure in your brain, and it hard resets. You have a seizure, and then you come back to life, essentially. But like you were talking about earlier, it's like you're dying, kind of. So
it's like shaking all the shit. It feels like a reset. It feels like a reset to me. I mean, I think now that's why like I don't really have a hard time with them, because it is a reset. Like, that's my brain feels 100,000% better afterwards. My body might have been not felt so great, but something about my brain feels a lot better. Not that I want them. I do not want to experience them. I'd rather just take a vitamin and feel better.
Like, I'll just take a vitamin and a nap, okay? Come on.
I mean, I think there's way better ways to go about it.
Seriously.
that people achieve on a daily basis than having to go that route. So we're gonna figure that out. But yeah, it's just, then that's a great way. That's a great context to think about it, is that it is not you. It is your brain, right? And that's why I'm like, my brain is just freaking out. It's got a mind of its own for sure. So, and that's just a journey, but nobody.
But when you can get to the point of like accepting the fact that, listen, this is just something that happens. It's not something I'm choosing to do. It's literally just something that happens. It's a huge jump mentally to be able to just accept it and go, listen, this is just me. It's just how I am. And then you can explain that to other people and say, listen, this is who I am. This is what happens. Deal with it. Like, I mean, not like deal with it, but like, listen, this is what happens. And it might happen. It might not happen. But if it does, this is what you do. And I guess like that's one of the things that's cool for me about having like people, like I have videos on YouTube and stuff as well. And that are 14 years old at this point, I think. And I've had people now for 14 years that'll message me on there or comment on there. You can't send messages on YouTube anymore. You used to be able to. And they'll comment and be like, I had someone just this past week who was like, I had a seizure on last Sunday, and like my parents are the ones that saw it, and now I know what it looks like, because now I came on here, watched your video, and now I know what it looks like, and I know why my parents were so scared, because it's terrifying to watch. And so like being able to have that stuff on there so that people can see it is, I guess that to me that's part of the process that's been healing for me, is being able to help other people as well. And like when I hear stories from people of, hey, I saw your video, it helped me out, it helped me understand better, like that's been part of the thing that's been like healing for me as well. So
yeah, that's awesome. I've never been able to get, I think maybe I've gotten one seizure. Oh,
whoa.
I stand fell.
At least it was your stand. It really looked like you fell at first. Like when it looked like you went whoop,
No,
fell out of your chair.
let's see. Oh gosh. It did, didn't it? I saw that. I've only gotten, I think, one, like a mini seizure. I was doing a yoga flow, and I don't know if I have that video still, but I remember it, like getting it. And I think that's the first time I've ever seen, and that was like 3 years ago, and that's the first time I've ever seen me have a seizure, which I was like, oh, okay, because my mom always like said they looked like I was like sleeping and snoring. Like this just weird, like I was just sleeping and shaking or snoring and stuff. And that's what Carter says too.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm like, well, that doesn't sound that scary. Why do y'all look so terrified when I wake up? Like, y'all are making this seem like it's not that big deal. And I wake up and y'all just look like absolutely terrified. So, but I think it's just different levels to it. So sometimes it's not as bad as the other, but.
Yeah. Mine, the ones that I have on video, I have 3 of them on video, and they were all taken in the hospital, like during testing. So,
I think I've seen some of yours, or the ones you showed on your YouTube.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's fascinating how many types there are.
It is. Yeah, it's wild. And the more that I get into it, the more I realize like there's a ridiculous number of different kinds. And it's crazy. I mean, every time I talk to someone else, I'm like, the more I learn about this, the less I feel like I know.
Right. That's it. I'm confused by it. Like I have even an epilepsy awareness certificate just so I had like basic facts, but even in the UK and the US have completely different stats, like
really
as far as information that they have. But I don't know, I think it's just like an effort, if you have the effort to help people, that's all that matters.
Yeah,
basis to understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, the seizures, I guess it's understanding all the seizures and not dimming the light of somebody else's experience with a seizure.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can have somebody who can be completely like almost here, present, talking, and just not.
Yeah.
And then you have somebody who fully, it just can wreck their absolute life, right?
That's me.
Exactly, like absolutely wreck their life. And
like I said, it's either go big or go home with me. So yeah, I'm just like
yeah, and it's just, and that's just how it is, like there's just no, I think that is probably the scariest thing about it.
Oh, and I think that's taken me that took me a while to like wrap my mind around, like, because I kind of used to have the mindset of, it was just a whatever seizure. It wasn't one of the big ones. It wasn't a tonic-clonic. It was just a fill in the blank. Right. But there is no just a whatever seizure.
Right.
Every seizure has a danger to it, because no matter what, your brain is misfiring.
Right.
Your brain is not functioning how it's supposed to be. So it's actually destroying brain cells as it happens. And some people will have 25, 30 of the quote unquote smaller seizures in a day. And that's just wild to me. And you can cause just as much damage by having that as having less of the tonic-clonic seizures. And so it's just crazy, but I guess getting to that point where I was like, okay, there's not such a thing as having a small seizure. They are all seizures, and there's just different kinds, I guess. But it's weird wording to try and get that all out of my head.
Yeah, no, to understand it, absolutely. I think that's the thing, is like justifying a seizure or understanding if a seizure is one worse than the other. And that's where I think I just don't even try to go. It's just
Right.
what's relevant to your life, you know?
Yeah.
Because honestly, my juvenile myclonic jerks, they are the most aggravating freaking thing I've ever experienced in my life, and I hate them. They're like similar to Tourette's, and if I could just nix off one thing in my life, it would be them. That's what that's what I started with. I don't know if you've ever heard of those?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's all I had at first. And I would just drop things, freaking fall on the floor, completely aware. Just wildest thing. And they are still very prevalent in my life.
Huh.
I don't think they will ever go away. So if I am, overheat, which I've trained my body through hot yoga, that is not a case anymore. Like the heat doesn't do anything, but which is very odd. I don't know if that's a way you should go about it. I just did it. But tired or just, I don't know. There's just like in the morning, I don't think I have them in the morning, but there's just certain points in time that they will come about, and I have to rest and sit down until they go away. But they're pretty, I guess how people have, when is a seizure might come on, those are my lights will do it, sounds. I hate them. Like, I hate them. I don't think I will ever like them. They annoy the shit out of me. There is something that just I don't know. They aggravate me more than anything. I'm not ever probably going to be like, oh, we just accept this. Like, no, I'm cussing, and then we go breathe, so they'll go away.
That's funny.
Yeah. So. There's work to do for sure, but I don't like them. And maybe it's just I don't like them currently because of whatever they're doing in my brain. So.
Hey, not upstairs.
But speaking of, is there any other question you wanted to do?
Oh, I was just going to end it kind of the same that we did last week. Just like if there was something that... you could tell someone who is just starting out on this journey, who's just found out that they've had epilepsy, what would you say to them?
I would definitely say go to your epilepsy community, reach out to one of us, somebody that you can trust. You are not alone. If you heard any of this, you can definitely tell that I struggle with it. It's normal to feel all sorts of emotions when diagnosed, when something you have no clue, never experienced with. So yeah, reach out to somebody, and somebody who's been through it or going through it, just has a little bit more time with it. And thank you.
Yeah. And then I would just second that and just say, connect with other people. You don't have to feel alone ever, because, you're not ever alone. And it seems like you are. It's going to feel like you are because you may be surrounded by people who either do not have epilepsy or you don't know that they do. I work with 25 to 30, 40 people at work every day, and probably 5 of them know. That's all. The rest of them walk past me every single day. I talk to them, and they have absolutely no idea. So they don't have any idea that I do, and I don't have any idea if they do. They could, and I wouldn't know, because just haven't talked to them. We just haven't had that conversation. And so it's just a matter of having the conversation and connecting with people. So connect with people for sure. Because you're not alone. It may feel, like I said, it may feel like it, but you're not alone. And you'd be surprised once you start opening up to people, how many people either have it themselves or have been personally affected by it.